everyone for coming to our special select board meeting on February 25th, 2026. I will ask that we call the meeting together, call the meeting in order, sorry, I can't talk today, at 6 p.m. and we stand for our pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. All right, so public comment on items not on the agenda. It's a big crowd tonight, so
Y'all set that?
It's all yours again.
Rick's gonna use our podium.
Good evening, folks. Selectmen meetings are the only time selectmen may legally discuss the business of the town. They're held at regular intervals, and during the meeting, there's time for public comment. Selectmen meetings are not to be confused with public hearings or town meetings. During the time of public comment on items not on the agenda, it's not designed for a back and forth between whoever's making the comments and the board. If the board chooses to do so, it may put that item on the agenda that evening or schedule it for a future meeting. There are times during the meeting where it may be appropriate for questions or comment from the public, but that needs to go through the chair and not have members of the public comment to each other, and it needs to be controlled. A couple of things that I've witnessed over here live and then on the recordings, which are great. When you have the code enforcement officer come in to talk about a violation and you're getting close to going to court, you don't open it up for public comment because you're opening up the town for a lawsuit. You gotta get the facts from the code enforcement officer, not the neighbors or nobody involved. Secondly, board members shouldn't have one-off conversations with people during contract negotiations. That's why you have a manager for, or use executive session. I'm hoping it's gonna get better. I didn't make the last meeting. I don't know if it had improved. I was kind of thinking maybe it's improved because you have this, but you folks gotta get this together or a recall will happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting the town in jeopardy, and we shouldn't be going backwards, we should be going forward.
Absolutely. Rick, I thank you for bringing that to the floor tonight. It's actually something that I was gonna address. I take ownership of how meetings have run since I've been chair. I am new, I am learning. And so I guess I'll lay some ground rules now. So how I would like to see these meetings go from this moment on, is that when we have a presentation or a code enforcement or anything that comes before us, I will listen, I will interact with the presentation, I will give my opinions, I will then ask for Vice Chair Susie's, and then move down to Mike Pushard. I take ownership that I have been letting meetings go back and forth, banter between people that it shouldn't be, and I promise that I have spoken to several select boards outside of this one to see how their chair and their meetings are run. It is a lot different than ours, and I own that. I need to, as one of them told me, use my gavel, it's here for a reason. And I plan to hold our meetings more in contempt. To Rick's point, if there is a topic brought to us, I would like to see the board and us not go back and forth, and I will ask Christine to add it to our agenda or not add it to our agenda for the upcoming meetings. So I apologize to the taxpayers. It was definitely a steep learning curve for me, and I realized that I was losing control because the meetings weren't being run like in the previous years, and I knew I needed to educate myself. I have done that, And Rick, to your point, hopefully you'll see a difference, starting in this meeting moving forward. So thank you for, preempting my conversation that was gonna happen tonight. So, moving on. Any more public comment? All right. Scheduled items, new business. Discuss, review, and possible consider approval of town manager submitting a summer 2026 intern application.
Thank you, Chair Truman. This quickly got away from me. It should have been on your last meeting, but I realized the application deadline is March 1st for a summer intern. Last year, they did let us apply late graciously. I'm not so sure they would be so excited about two years in a row. I did confer with some of the staff around here, what would we have for a project. Greg was the most interested with having a project, continuing the work in that office that was started, I think, last summer with Kara. Last summer was another roads project. The summer before with Kara. And then also integrating that with Joe's new project, should that pass at town budget on getting all the information in. This person, should we get a match with an intern, would be a huge asset. This year's cost is $17 an hour. They work, I think, about 16 weeks roughly. And the Margaret Chase Smith Institute also charges $350 as a program admin fee. I did place it in the budget. But what we move into is you guys have to commit at this point. It's been funded, since I've been here every summer we've had one. I think you had one a couple summers before that. It's a small cost for the amount of work we get. And then we hope to see that it entices somebody to enter municipal government. So, up to you if you want to commit to that. I would greatly appreciate it if we could maybe get some more stuff done around here that doesn't necessarily get done in the normal day.
Mm-hmm. I personally think that the last two interns that I've been involved with, have been spectacular. They've been on top of their game, they've gotten a lot done, and it was useful, some projects they can get things done, but not be really useful to build on, and I think what you and Greg have asked them to do has been very mindful that we could build upon that in the future, so I'm okay with this. I think it's a great idea and I support it. Vice Chair?
Thank you. I think in theory it's a great thing. Unfortunately, I think we gotta cut a few things out and to help lower things down in here, and I think that's unfortunately one of them. Like I said, I think in theory it's a great idea. Just right now, it's at some point you gotta start cutting a few things, and unfortunately, I need to cut that out.
Thank you. Selectman Busher?
I'm kind of on the same wavelength as Jake. I wish we had more time so we could go through the budget more. This is going to be a trying budget year with some of the things that are put in front of us. What is this intern going to be? What are they going to be doing for this year?
So it will be a continuation of working on those files in there, making sure that all the files are complete for each individual property. At that point, if we get funding to move forward with the first phase of the retail inputting the data, that person would help scan all the stuff in for Joe to start to speed up that process over the next 2 years. Plus, also cleaning, we had some miscellaneous stuff in there, cleaning that vault, indexing that vault, indexing our vault in here. These are all things we just don't have time for. It's a cost of about $6,000 for the summer.
I really don't know. I look at the staff that we have. We have town manager, four people in the office, not full-time, 4 people. We've never had 4 people. I'm just wondering if one of those can move off and help in that area, for this particular year. I wish we had more time, and I wish it was bumped another month down the road so that we can get into the budget cycle and see what is going to be cut for this year. I guess at this point, I would probably vote against it if I had to make a decision tonight. I think what they've done is great. That road project that the girl did a couple of years ago, King Coffin loves that. Huge advantage for him looking at stuff like that in his line of work. So this intern has absolutely worked for the town. I think, again, this budget cycle with the stuff that was brought up to us at the last meeting, I know it's not a lot of money, $6,000, but I guess if I had to vote tonight, I would probably say no for this year. And again, I wish we had more time, because I think it does help us, but.
That's a really good point that I'll make to the Margaret Chase Smith Institute, that if the timing doesn't work, and I know what the issue is, they're trying to grab the kids as they're coming out of the semesters of college is what they're trying to do, but you're right, budgets, it's hard.
It is, and I don't think, I think every one of us has said that it's definitely an advantage. I mean, they do some good work for the town, and some of the stuff that has been left, after they leave has just been crucial. I just, we were hit with some stuff last meeting that we just don't know what's gonna happen, and I just think every little bit is what we're gonna need, not knowing what the school budget's gonna be, and we know that's gonna be 3 to 4% like it always is. So, I guess if it's, if I have to say yes or no tonight, I'd probably say no.
Okay.
So,
And we have to let you know, because it's due March 1st, okay.
There was always the option, doesn't mean you're gonna get it, that we could get a grant. I've been pretty successful with getting a grant to fund those, but I didn't get one last year. So you can't count on that.
Right.
So
And once you commit to it,
you are
whether you
committed.
get the grant or not, we are on the hook for it.
So you're best to vote no tonight if that's the case.
Okay. Is there any way that we could be proactive and try to put that in the budget, not for this year, but thinking about next year, maybe? Is there a way we can,
The unfortunate thing is
Allocate.
it overlaps fiscal years.
that's what I thought, okay. Well, it's, unfortunately, I do have to take a vote.
I
Okay.
would motion to do an intern, have a second, and then vote it.
Okay, I'll make a motion that, we approve an intern for the summer of 2026, intern application that is due by March 1st. My vote was, after listening to the guys, I do see their points, and I do agree with that. I just think we got really good results, we got really lucky with the staff that we were paired with. But yeah, I can see their points of view, so I'm gonna stick with my yes, cause I think it's a great asset, but,
And then you just need a second and then do your vote.
anybody want a second line? No?
You can second it, doesn't mean you have to vote in the affirmative. Good rule of thumb on board etiquette
It's
is
a
to
second,
positive the motion, have your discussion, and then if you decide to vote it down, vote it down.
okay.
But you don't have to get a second if you don't want. It just plays for good etiquette.
I'll entertain,
I've never done it that way. That kind of confuses me.
It's okay.
I'll entertain any motion.
I'll make a motion to, not put the application out for 2026 intern this year.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Okay. Old business, discussion with VHB Carl Ayers, Windsor Road Project. Grant application, possibly use ARPA funds to pay for the process. My understanding, we don't have a rep tonight because they were at the meeting to discuss with the grant people this grant, so. That being said, I'll let you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Truman. Carl did call me yesterday afternoon about 4 o'clock, explained to me that he would not be here this afternoon because he was meeting with the group that gives the grant that he spoke to you at the last meeting about today at 4 o'clock. So, timing wise, it wouldn't work. He felt still very confident that we could possibly get this grant. He would know more after this meeting this afternoon, so I have to call him tomorrow. But what he did want to alert the board to was that you don't necessarily have to make a decision this evening. He's found out that the grant opens the end of March. So if you wanted to wait until the March meeting, he was okay with that. Certainly up to you. I know you had requested this meeting before the end of the month because he said it would open the first week of March. Thinking through this over the past couple of days, I did, after last week's meeting, the week before meeting, I reached out to Reagan in regards to possibly using TIF funds or opera. Reagan said there was no way TIF funds could be used, which I knew that after I reread the TIF again. And I did talk to the auditors about ARPA, and they're very unclear. They're still seeking an answer from the government about changing that entry that I had told you guys about ages ago, from committing it to a new town office to loss of revenue. So their suggestion was not to use ARPA funds at this point either. So after I spoke to Carl yesterday, I tried to think through the process of where we could possibly get 30,000, seeing as we didn't have it in any reserve funds that were classified to go with that. If you were going to use it out of undesignated, you'd have to go to town meeting in order to allow that, because specifically the article at town meeting says to reduce the tax commitment, okay? So I talked through with the finance director and I said, in your mind, could you rationalize taking 30,000 out of the roads budget to pay for this? Sitting through that conversation, understanding that this 30,000 would possibly save $500,000 down the road should we get the grant. In our mind, it was okay to use the money out of the roads budget, okay? Now I went back and I looked at the budget, which you have a copy of the sheet. Last year, we had approximately $115,000. It's in the orange at the bottom and just kind of stuck out there. Fiscal year 25 leftover, okay, from the summer roads budget. And currently for this year, we have about $450,000. I am going to ask you at an upcoming meeting to carry forward that 115, so we have more money for this year for roads. As you recall, we're only going to do the top pavement on the 7 roads that we've done the past 2 years. So my recommendation would be to take it out of summer roads, the general road maintenance line, and hope that we get that grant.
I'm glad to see that we have money to roll over. And I think taking the chance at this grant, I mean, we know the Windsor Road has to be done. And it could save us a lot of money going down the road. I know 30,000 is a lot of money right now. And obviously I would like $30,000 in the maintenance in our roads, but this is, I mean, if we think about it, how much money do we put into the Windsor Road? You know, so I think I would love to have it come out of somewhere else, but we can't, so I think taking 30,000 on the rollover would be a wise decision on our behalf. Vice Chair?
just feel that with the fish ladder being north of this issue, with the LYs and DMR involved, that I just don't see this, I mean, I don't know a lot about grant applications and whole process of it, but it seems like there's gonna be a lot of push from DMR and whoever else is involved to get this through. I just feel like the $30,000 or $40,000, the biggest enough for these guys to do it is kind of foolish in a way. I mean, I don't know the process of the grant, but I feel like Christine could write this together enough with DMR and get this through and have just as good as odds as we do giving these guys a bunch of money to do it because of the LYs. It's a huge issue with the state, and I remember when that culvert flipped up, they were having a coronary about this whole situation, so I am not in favor to take the money out to fund this for this company to write this grant. I think our town manager should write it.
Do you feel comfortable writing a grant?
Under
Do you have
most,
the experience to
I
write that?
have not written a grant of this massive expertise, no. No, this is a very specialized grant that comes from that company. I mean, that's not to say I can't give it a try, but I just don't want you guys to come back and say, well, why didn't you do this? Because
And I agree, I think the gamble balances out.
I hate to lose a lot of money if we get cast aside. Because we're going to have to repair it no matter what, and this grant would pay for it, but I'll do whatever this board instructs me to do.
So, if we don't get this grant, what is the town on the hook for?
We will get approximately 80% of funding to bring it to exactly what it was prior to this storm. 80% from FEMA, 15% from state, and 5% out of our own coffers. Somewhere in the $300,000 to $500,000 range.
Will be our hook.
No, that would be the total, so our hook would be 5% of that, so what's that, 25,000? Max?
I mean, listening to those guys the other day, he made it sound like that's his expertise in writing that grant for that particular issue. So I guess, I guess I'd be in favor of having them do the grant. So we can't take it out of opera.
We cannot take it out of ARPA. ARPA is now going to be categorized as loss of revenue for fiscal year '24.
I think we probably should have someone who is obviously familiar with writing the grant to try to get that grant. And I just don't think we should take a gamble on having Christine write it if she's not familiar with it. I guess it doesn't make sense to try your first grant on something as important as that culvert down there. So I guess I'd be in favor of taking it out of that 25 fiscal year rollover and do that.
I mean, Jake, I hear your concerns and they're valid, but the grant writing that I've been involved in, DMR can support a lot of different projects, and it's a board that's gonna approve this, and they know what they wanna see for verbiage, and if it's not in there written just so, even though DMR is pushing for it, we may not get it. We may not get it if they write the grant, but I think it's worth a shot, and I understand your point. Any public comment on this? And that's a lot of taxpayer
I do
dollars.
have one question.
Sure.
If they write the grant, do they give you a copy of the application they submit? so that it could be referred to in the future if anything else ever come along those lines.
Fingers crossed we never have to do
Well,
those
just-
again, but.
Supposed not to do it again anyway.
Supposed to be a lifetime on it, but that's really.
Well,
Remember, come to the podium, please. I
Um,
know it's new for all of us, it's weird for me to say it.
When will we know results on that? Any idea?
I believe that if I remember correctly, the grant opens in March, and did he say 6 weeks after?
Yeah, I think it was a quick turnaround.
Yeah, which I suspect, once we hear we get it, they'll start the whole process of working with a contract to engineer it for us, which will also be part of that grant money. The intent is to make it the 21 feet wide, so the state has to further assume it, we won't run through this again in 10 or 15 years. It's now the state bridge.
Right.
So DMR is not going, and I don't want this to sound negative, they're not going to sit with me and work on a grant. They're gonna say, these are your things that you need to make sure are fixed when you fix that area, and good luck, we just want it back so the fish can get through. They'd be happy with just what's there, because that's what FEMA's gonna pay for,
Right.
just what's there. But who's to say how long that's gonna last? You got 15 years out of the last
And I,
one?
yeah, and I understand, like, they're heavily backed up, and I'm just worried about the funding for period. And I don't know,
Mhm.
there's a lot going on in this country, and I just don't think they're gonna care about Little Chelsea, Maine, on Windsor Road, I just don't.
Well,
It's a heavy risk to take, and it's a gamble, life's a gamble, but it's,
The good thing you have on your side as a community is it's a blue line. It's recognized as a blue line.
right,
That means fish are coming up.
right,
Having that ladder at the other end, that's a positive thing.
oh, absolutely,
I mean, you may have looked at it as negative when it was installed, but because they have to get to that, they're gonna make sure it's
Right.
fixed somehow.
and that's what I was justifying it as, that's a huge advantage for us, it's a home run swing, with having the LYs, that's a huge, it's one of the biggest markets in this state, but.
And I had reached out to the nonprofit that did the ladder. I actually tried to reach Palmer.
Right.
He's incapacitated right at the moment, so my intent is to work with them also on maybe them giving some of our 5% that we'd
Right.
have to come up with, but I just haven't got a chance to connect with him yet, so. I'll seek out everything I can for our 5%,
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
but I would hate to write this for this community and then you come back and say, well, didn't you know that, because this is so specialized, this isn't a firehouse grant, this
Right.
isn't a Stephen King grant. Those are the easy ones, I can get those out. This is a truly $1 million grants that,
Okay, so we need a motion? Okay. I will make a motion that we take the $30,000 to fund the grant writing for the Windsor Road Bridge project.
Second.
Make second, all those in favor? All those against? All right, perfect, thank you. All right, and then, number 2, funding of repairs for sand and salt shed.
this was the second item that this board asked me to go and look for. Unfortunately, read through the TIF again, TIF funds do not qualify, it's out of the district and it's not as a category as an allowable expense for TIF funds. Reagan and I are going to work on that in the next coming year to take to voters to modify. However, at this point, we do not have a funding source for approximately the $35,000 needed for just the repairs of the wall. And we don't even have enough in the winter roads budget for this year. So my suggestion is a couple of things. We attempt to place it in as a separate warrant article for the voters in our warrant, where they could understand that it will come from undesignated, they can make that decision. Or I can add it to the winter roads budget with the board and the budget committee voting either in the affirmative or in the negative for a set number for that budget. It's entirely how this board would like to move forward with it. We do have time on our hands. I mean, it's not falling down around us at this moment, but it does need to be repaired in the next year or two.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but he said that he would hold the prices for a year. Do either one of you remember that? So we have a year to make a decision.
And he said it wasn't urgent.
Okay. So I think putting it in our budget and with it separated out so people can really see it, I think that is a great discussion for the taxpayers and the board to be able to have at town meetings. So I would like to see it done that way.
A separate warrant article.
Yep.
Okay.
I just think if we put it in that line, it gets confusing. I would like to see it totally separated, and then that way they know what they're voting on, and we can discuss to that point.
Okay.
So that's my motion, G.
The last meeting, we had discussed that the TIF would potentially pay for the culvert company, and the COVID money was potentially paid for this. We can't use COVID money for it, for the structure.
At this point, based on what the auditors have said, because they haven't got the final answer from the reserve on the transferring of that, my suggestion at this point is not to say that. I mean, that doesn't mean that 3 months from now, I can't get an answer from R.H. Smith that says, yes, you can do this now. But it has to take some entries from them first, because of where we non-committed it to the town office, which I originally reported it
Right.
to now loss of revenue.
Any time frame on when they can answer back on that?
She said that she had reached out to them, but they had not replied to them, so.
It's just a big deal to have that money, and I feel it's definitely good use for that, rather than have the taxpayer once again pay more money for it. It's unfortunate as well. Too bad you couldn't get decisions like on a easier basis. I guess at this point, it's gonna have to go up to the town to vote if they wanna do it or not, and which is unfortunate, because the COVID money's not free money, they've already paid it, now they gotta pay it again, in my opinion.
Mr. Bouchard?
I think you could ask the town to take it out of undesignated fund balance. We have the Woodlot account that we could take it out of. Again, I think a decision like this can't be made until we get through the budget cycle and see where we stand. You know, we're trying to make decisions and we haven't got to the budget yet. You know, if these decisions were to be made 2 months down the road, we already know where we stand kind of sort of with the budget. I would think some of these decisions would be a little easier, but to make them before budget is, so I would, you know, we've got money in the undesignated fund balance. I got a feeling that this year, we're not gonna be taking a lot of money out of undesignated fund balance to offset the budget, not like we have in the past. So, to ask for, what's the,
55,000.
you know, so.
You could always, as you said, borrow from the woodlot. We did ask the voters to approve that and then paying it back over
Yeah.
2 years. We could do
2 or 3
something
years
right,
to
we
make
could
it
do
easy.
something like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
which would make it more palatable
Hmm.
for the taxes. A $5,000 increment on taxes is about $3.30 on a tax bill, so be about $21 on an average home for the 35,000. But if you borrow it from your woodlot, it's just payback slowly.
Hmm.
So we can certainly decide however you guys wanna, what you want the warrant article to say, either borrowing from another account or, using it from undesignated or just using it as part of the tax commitment.
When's the fire truck end?
That we have 2 more payments on.
What if we just tabled it? He said it wasn't an emergency, he said we have a year. Why don't we get the TIF rewritten, we have to spend money out of that, this would be a great reason. It's not gonna be a tax burden, you know? And if we're gonna use money out of the undesignated funds, I think that should really help our mill rate for our taxpayers, because that's out of, yeah. So, we could make a motion to table it?
Yeah, I'm fine tabling it until, you know, maybe the April meeting's the latest, just to see if they get back to us by then with the.
From the Federal Reserve.
Right, just then we'll know if we wanna put it on the ballot to be voted on or
I was
not.
gonna say, in April will be about the last
Right,
call to put anything on, because you guys have to sign it
right.
in May to go to town meeting. You can certainly table it until April meeting, and maybe I'll have answers in the next couple of weeks from R.H. Smith. I don't know. He did say he'd hold the price. I mean, he's a pretty good kid, so I
Yeah.
think he wants the business.
And I can't imagine if it was, next year's gonna be more than a couple $1,000 more, you know what I mean, unless
Right.
something crazy happens with
Well,
glue,
he
but.
said he'd hold the price
Yeah.
for a year for us, so.
And we can always spray again to hold us again. I mean, we did it last year, so. It's not falling, so,
Oh, I know, but it's just preventive maintenance.
right.
Yep.
Which should
It's
have
not,
been
it's not getting better
outrageous.
either way, you know.
It's definitely not going to get better, but, I mean, it's not like, oh my gosh, we would make a decision in 2 days.
Right.
Right.
So, we're okay, it's keeping our stuff dry right now. So, table it until April, and then I'll come back in April, if I have an answer, great, if not, you guys can decide what you wanna do at that point.
Right, do I need a motion?
I would table it until
I will make a motion that we table, the request for the repairs to the sand and salt shed to our April meeting.
Second.
Jake seconds, all those in favor?
Thank you.
I think that's one of our quickest meetings, so I will make a motion to adjourn, February 25th, 2026 meeting.
Second.
Mike seconds, all those in favor? All three of us.
Thank you. 6:37.